Have you ever wondered why so many women with autoimmune disease feel like their bodies are working against them and why conventional medicine doesn't always have the answers? Are you tired of being told that your only options are more medications or that your symptoms are just in your head? What if I told you that there is a holistic approach that's been helping people around the world for over 200 years, one that focuses on your body's own ability to heal? If that sounds like you are not alone. So many of us struggle with the daily challenges of autoimmune disease, feeling misunderstood, dismissed, or stuck in a cycle of symptoms and side effects. Welcome back to the Health Bridge podcast. I'm Holly B. I'm a lupus and energy expert. Through my Health Bridge protocol, I help women with lupus or other autoimmune conditions go from flared, fatigued, and burned out to calm, stable, and lit up with life again. Today on the episode, I'm joined by Marcus Fernandez, a renowned homeopath, educator, and founder of the Center for Homeopathic Education in London. We're diving into the world of homeopathy, what it really is, how it works, and why it might be the missing piece in your health journey. By the end of the episode, you will know how homeopathy can support your body's natural healing process, what to expect if you're new to this approach, and how to take the first steps towards a more empowered, individualized path to wellness. Stick around because we're answering the question, can energy medicine, like homeopathy, really make a difference for women living with autoimmune disease? Marcus, welcome to the Health Bridge podcast. We're getting into a topic today that I have not touched on yet, so I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you, Holly, for having me here.
You teach homeopathy, and that is maybe a term that people have heard, but I think most people understand that to just mean holistic, which of course it
Yeah,
is a holistic modality. But could you give us an overview of what homeopathic medicine truly is?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, often people say, yeah, I mean, they think it's holistic in some way, mind-body connection. But homeopathy is really is a whole system of medicine, and it's been around for in its current form for the past probably 200 odd years. It comes from Germany originally, and it's really the basis of homeopathy is, and the main principle of it is what's called the law of similars, or like cures like. So what that means is, an example would be if you chop an onion up and your eyes water and your nose runs, then that's very as the effects of chopping onions. Then we often will use onion in a very diluted form for people with hay fever or colds, where the eyes are streaming and the nose is running. Another example would be we use, like, if you drank coffee. When you drink coffee, if you drink a lot of coffee, then your whole nervous system will get very wound up. You're thinking at 1,000 miles an hour. You might not be able to sleep, but it really winds the whole nervous system up. Where we use coffee in its homeopathic form, which means very diluted, in order for people that experience the same symptoms without drinking coffee. So you can be really stressed with work. You can't get to sleep at night. Your whole nervous system is wound up. So what can cause something in a large amount, in a small amount, it can cure it. And that's really the basis of homeopathy.
Now, when you're talking about using onion or using coffee in a diluted form, can you explain what that looks like? Because we're not talking about using an actual onion or an actual diluted cup of coffee.
That's right. Exactly. Well, thank you. Yes, exactly right. So basically, how you make a homeopathic remedy, or how the homeopathic pharmacists make the remedy, is, say for example, you've got, I don't know, the onion. You'll make a tincture out of that onion, okay, a herbal tincture, and then you'll take one drop of that and put into 99 parts of alcohol, and then what they call, it's called succussion, which means they bang the bottom of the test tube on a firm surface, which sort of it's invigorating the substance. You then take one drop of that into another 99 parts of alcohol, and you do the same again. So basically, what's happening is dilution and succussion. And so by the time you get to like 12C of a potency, because 1C, 2C, 3C, all the different potencies, by the time you get to 12C, there's nothing left of the in the chemical range. It's going out of the material range. But really, what you've got behind is this energetic sort of imprint of that actual medicine. So it's free of side effects. But what it's doing is stimulating your body to heal itself. It's like a key to a lock. It's stimulating the body to heal itself.
I always explain it as essentially an energy medicine because we're
Yes,
really focusing in on the energetics of whatever the substance is while
exactly.
removing the majority of the substance from, or all of the substance from the actual tablets or
That's right.
pellets.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
exactly it. It's exactly it. It's an energetic medicine, which sometimes science has an issue with because if they can't see it and it's dully and there's nothing left, but that's why you get a lot of skepticism about homeopathy. But homeopathy is not only just used on people, or it's used on babies, it's used in pregnancy, it's used on animals. There's veterinarians that use homeopathy. People now are using it on the crops. There's a lot of research being done where remedies have been sprayed onto crops, and it's all been seen to be very effective. So, like you said, it's like when you go see the acupuncturist, there's no actual physical meridians in the body, but that's what they've been doing for thousands of years with needles to help unblock those meridians to let what they call the chi, or in Ayurveda prana, or in homeopathy, the vital force, in order to flow properly. So, yes, it definitely is an energetic medicine. And I don't think the answer's in chemistry with it. I think the answer's in quantum physics and quantum mechanics.
I love the quantum conversation. I'm diving more and more into that all the time. And I think a way that I like to explain it to with energy medicine is like bring it down to something simple that we can all recognize. You know, you walk into a room, you can automatically feel if somebody just had an argument, say, or if
Yes,
somebody's really lit up, right? You can feel that energy without them even having to say anything. That's energy.
exactly.
So we can feel that
Absolutely.
from a human. We can also feel that everything gives off its own, I don't know what the right term is, like an energy field. And
Yes.
that includes plants, that includes substances, right? So when you're talking about
Yeah,
the onion or the coffee, they have their own energy. We go to them for certain
absolutely.
reasons. So we're feeling the effects of that energy in our energy field, even if we don't have the substance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're electromagnetic beings, aren't we? I mean, we know we're electromagnetic beings. That's what we are. And this is why grounding is so important. It's like, we sometimes really need to earth. I say that lots of my clients and patients, especially after a long flight. In fact, that happened to me recently. We flew back from Bali, and the first thing I did is get my feet on the ground. Why? Because I need to ground. We need to earth. It's so, so crucial. So you're right. I think there's much more acceptance now of this whole idea of energy medicine, or this sort of things that emanates from us. And like you said, atmospheres, those feelings that you have, it's like we're connected to something else rather than always just the material dose, which is a very sort of Western way of thinking. When you look at the East, like we just talked about chi and Chinese medicine, they talk about chi all the time, and prana. It's accepted. It's just part of life, and I think it's really crucial that we embrace that, or especially look into it.
Could we get into the history a little bit more
Sure.
of homeopathic medicine? Because it was very systematically disregarded, like on purpose by powers that be. I think homeopathy and other types of natural medicine as the standard model of Western medicine began to take over. Could you talk
Yes.
about that a little bit? Because I don't
Yeah.
think most people know that history.
Yeah. Well, how deep do you want to go? I mean, the history in the US is phenomenal. At the turn of the 20th century, 25% of all physicians in the US were homeopathic doctors. I mean, homeopathy was huge in America, absolutely huge. There was homeopathic hospitals all over, medical schools. I mean, all over. And basically, what happened, and this is a very brief history of it in the US. You had a thing called the Flexner Report, and the Flexner Report, which was commissioned, I think, by the Rockefeller Institute. Even though Rockefeller had a homeopath all his life until his age of 96, did this report which stopped all the funding of homeopathic hospitals and homeopathic medical schools. So overnight, it all closed down. The American Medical Association was set up to outlaw homeopathy. You couldn't associate with a homeopathic doctor. If you were a medical doctor, you couldn't, and well, just an allopathic medical doctor, you couldn't associate with a homeopathic doctor, or you'd be struck off. Say to all of you listening, look into this, especially in the US, look into the history of homeopathy in America. It's incredible. And then, so basically, Rockefeller was going to leave all his money to homeopathy, but he got persuaded by one of his advisors to leave it to this new medicine that was coming, which was, at the rise of allopathic medicine. So things could have been a lot different. In the UK, you can remember around the world. I mean, just example, in India, 100 million people use homeopathy as their primary healthcare. It's homeopathic hospitals, pharmacies on every street corner. It's huge in India. And in the UK, we had like 5 homeopathic hospitals in London, which still exists now, London Homeopathic Hospital. You had one in Glasgow, in Liverpool, Tunbridge Wells, in Bristol, the whole royal family. In fact, to this day, Ainsworth Pharmacy in London has the royal warrants to supply homeopathic remedies to the royal family. The late Queen Elizabeth II used homeopathy all her life. Wherever she traveled with a homeopathic remedy box. So same with the king. The king now is the patron of the Faculty of Homeopathy. So there's a long history associated around the world for homeopathy. And so this is not like a new age fad. It's been around a long time in France, in Germany, all over the world. So, but I remember when I first heard about homeopathy, I couldn't believe that I never heard of it before. I just couldn't believe it because the history of it is so amazing. Again, I said all around the world.
And so I think one of the main concerns people have is looking at something that's just, energy medicine. There's nothing really in that pellet that they're telling me to take, versus going to a medical doctor, getting a bottle of pills.
Yeah.
That seems more substantial, right? And I think people have a hard time understanding how an energy medicine could be just as powerful in their healing. Could you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think it's really what we always were saying in the UK. The proof is in the pudding. I always say to people, this is not a belief. You have to try this. It's like you have to try it. I remember, I ran a mother and baby clinic for many, many years. I've been practicing for over 30 odd years. But I remember running a mother and baby clinic for many years. And then when my son was born, actually it's his birthday today, give him a shout out. He's 15. When he was born, and I remember he was only a couple of weeks old, and it was the middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning, as it usually is. And he had terrible colic. He was in such pain, and he was, arching his back. You know the story if you've been through that. And I gave him the homeopathic remedy chamomilla, which is the homeopathic version of chamomile. So if you drink a lot of chamomile tea, it can really, again, affect the nervous system, can cause colic. So therefore, in a small amount, it can help it. So I gave him chamomilla as a soft tablet, and as soon as it hit into his mouth, I could feel, because I was holding him, his whole body just relax. And he just let out this little sigh, like, and when the baby falls asleep. And I remember thinking, even though for years I've been a practitioner, it never ceases to amaze me, the effect of that. Now, that's what I'm saying about the proofs in the pudding. You have to use it in order to see it. It's not a belief. You have to believing it for it to work. So again, they use the analogy of going to see the acupuncturist for acupuncture. They're putting these little needles in, but what are they doing? They're not putting right in. They're just putting it in. Sometimes it can be painful if the meridian is a little bit blocked. But basically what they're doing is helping the chi very gently to flow. So how homeopathy works, how I see it, it's like a key to a lock. So it's like a key to a car ignition. I know a lot of cars are electric these days, but in the old days when the key was in the ignition. So the remedy in itself is not powerful. Just like the car key is not powerful. But when it goes into the ignition and the engine starts, you don't need to keep turning the key. The engine's already going and it will continue. You don't need to turn the key until the engine stops again. It's the same with the homeopathic remedy. It's a key to a lot. The remedies are stimulating the body to heal itself. All that healing wisdom we're ever going to need, I believe, is within us. We have innate health. Now, don't get me wrong, people can be very sick and very ill, and but our idea is to try to get the body to start that engine again so it can start going. Whereas allopathic medicine, in allopathic medicine, it's suppressing the symptoms. So here's an example, like a car dashboard. If the oil light flashes, it means there's something wrong in the engine. I use a lot of car analogies. I don't know why, because I'm not into cars at all. But the car dashboard, if the oil light flashes, it means there's something wrong in the engine. But if you just take the bulb out or just suppress the symptom, there's still a problem in the engine. The car's going to break down 2 or 3 miles down the road. So what we do as a homeopath, we go into the engine and we fix the problem, and the light will go off by itself. So that's the difference. It's like the allopathic medicine, yes, it's material dose, but it's trying to dominate the system. It's trying to stop these symptoms. But what by stopping, which is quite powerful on the body, but if you try to stop it, it will try to come out somewhere else. Because symptoms is our body's way of trying to communicate to us that there's a problem inside. So an example would be eczema. Eczema is a really good example, eczema and asthma. So people will go and say, get some normally steroid cream for eczema, and they put it on. So they put it on the hands, and it comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes, and then all of a sudden it disappears. And then 3 or 4 months later, they develop asthma. Very common link. You see this a lot. Now, when somebody comes in to see me in that situation, the first thing I'm going to ask if they come in with asthma, have you ever had eczema? Oh yeah, you had it, but it got cured by the cream. The cream cured it. Oh yeah, what cream you use? Steroid cream. Okay. Now I know as a practitioner, what it's done is suppress the symptoms. It's tried to express itself, but you've suppressed it and suppressed it. Therefore, it's gone deeper. Then it goes into the next sort of hierarchy. So your skin's the most out layer. The next layer is your mucous membranes, or the lungs. So that's eczema, but it's just gone within. And so what happens is, as you're treating the asthma as a homeopath, I warn clients, your eczema is going to come back. But that's a good sign, because it's called a return of old symptoms. So as the asthma gets better, then the eczema comes back. And then you treat the eczema, what the remedies they should have had then, and then the eczema cures of itself. So I don't know if that explains, I've gone off a bit of a tangent there, but that explains sort of the difference in it. And every single drug has a side effect. Every single drug has a side effect. Drugs are drugs. They got side effects. So, and sometimes people are 2 or 3 medications, and if they're taking one medication to counteract the side effects of the other medication, and people can be in a real mess from that and suffering actually from a lot of time side effects. Now, I'm not anti-medicine, Holly. I'm not saying medicine is all bad and all wrong. I'm not saying that. To me, it's a scale. If I'm in a car accident or had an accident, the first place I want to be is a hospital. Now, if I'm conscious, I'll probably take arnica if I'm conscious, and that did happen to me. But if I've got a chronic disease, I'm going to look at other ways to try to get my body to heal itself before I go down that route. So again, it's not about being, this is terrible, this is great. There's too much polarity and division in the world. You can walk a middle way, and it really is about trusting that healing wisdom and listening to the body.
Which is so hard sometimes for people who have been suffering with a autoimmune disease.
Absolutely.
Because it's told to them that their body is attacking them. They feel like their body is against them. They're just constantly under attack. They can't trust the system, right? Meaning their body system.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
how do we start to work backwards? Because, in any type of holistic medicine, we're not specifically treating a disease with a label, right? We're not specifically treating lupus. We're treating patterns that are presenting. So how do you start working with somebody?
Yeah, well, we're treating people. I mean, this is what's the most important thing. I mean, we have these labels, but actually what we're doing is treating people. So sometimes people can have an issue like an autoimmune disease, but people display in their own individual way with their own individual characteristic symptoms. So it's like coughs are the same or whatever. It's like people can have but they can have different symptoms. Some things are better, make things better, like could be worse going outside in the cold. Some people are better being in the cold, but worse in the heat. So when anybody comes to see me as a practitioner, I'll take the symptomatology of what they're suffering from and what they want help with, but then I'll be asking questions like, what makes it better? What makes it worse? What's the sensation like? all those sort of, to try to really get the actual detail of how they're suffering. Not, oh, you've got lupus, therefore take this drug, and everybody that got this particular type of lupus takes that particular type of drug. It's trying to get very individual. So we may have 3 or 4 cases of an autoimmune disease, but they need different remedies according to their story. So after asking all those questions, we'll then go back and say, well, when did it all start? It started 5 years ago. What was happening in your life 5 years ago? So sometimes people have never been asked that question, but it's a relevant question to ask because we're not just treating people physically. We're also treating people mentally and emotionally and physically in all levels. Because sometimes people will say, well, they may say, well, I had a really traumatic birth and it was really, I thought I was going to die. I thought the baby was going to die, da, da, da. And they're telling you the story and they're getting emotional. Why? Because there's still some part of their body is still in that trauma. And then, so then when was it then? Then that started about 3 or 4 months later, this started. Now, I'm not saying it's all caused because of that. My point is that we are looking as well for, did anything go on at that time? What was going on in your life? Or what was going on? There might not be one cause. It could be a series of things. So basically what we do, you're born here and you're here now, and different things have happened along the way in your life. So it's like a stack of books. I'll turn it this way. It's like a stack of books. And our job is to, is to take each layer off. Or a bit like another analogy is a bit like an iceberg. You can only see this top bit. So therefore, what you're trying to do, you're trying to get people back to that innate health. But often people have got a history of like the top layer could just be the drugs that they're on and suffering from the side effects from that. And you have to help try to deal with that. And there's remedies you can take which help deal with side effects. So what we're looking a bit like the car dashboard, as I said, we're trying to go into the engine saying, well, what could have caused this? What else could be going on in a person's life? Again, not just physical, because things don't come out of nowhere often. There's often something that has been a trigger somewhere along the line, or something that they've inherited, like a predisposition, but that then has been awoken up or triggered by something. Does that make sense? So basically what we're doing is taking people's story.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in here and interrupt the program for just a hot minute. You know that I'm so passionate about this podcast, but what I'm also really passionate about is helping women with lupus minimize their symptoms, boost their energy so that they can indulge in life again. So if you are a woman who is struggling with lupus, who is sick and tired of being sick and tired, who's struggling to manage your flares, if you're finding that your lupus symptoms are just really getting in the way of you being able to live your life the way you want to, I feel you. I've been there myself and I felt the same way. And what I've found is that there are a certain set of health fundamentals that once applied will support you in your foundational health. They will support you in building and maintaining that energy, minimizing flares, and allowing you to, again, indulge in life and follow your passions. So, if that is something that you are interested in creating for yourself, let's jump on a call together. I will walk you through the process that I use with my clients to get them from sick and tired to strong foundation of health by implementing my Health Bridge protocol. If this is something you're interested in chatting more about, I would love to talk to you. Apply for a free clarity call with me, and I look forward to getting to know you soon. And now back to the episode. And how refreshing is that when you normally have maybe 10 minutes tops with a doctor?
If you can even see a doctor in the UK now, in the GP, it's very, very difficult to even get to see a doctor. People waiting weeks to see a doctor. But absolutely, I totally agree. And sometimes people have not. There's that one question, Holly. What was happening in your life at that time? I cannot tell you the amount of emotion that's being released in that consultation just asking that one question.
Right. And
so
we've
never been asked that question.
Right. And so we're working on that emotional level. We're working through past or recognizing past traumas that have been stagnated in the body, and stagnation leads to all kinds of problems, right?
Absolutely. And exactly. And if you don't listen to your body when it whispers, you're going to listen to it when it screams. And actually, often you're hearing like the end result of a process, because disease is a process. It's not often, very rarely just an event. There's something it's been a process, and I'm just of 30 odd years taking people's cases. Everyone's got a different story to tell of how they got there. But from my experience, there's a lot of mental and emotional issues that have also triggered these disease process. I'm not saying it's all that, because there's so many different variables. It can be physical trauma, it can be due to all different types of things, but we have to take that. Again, in Chinese medicine they do the same, in Ayurveda they do the same. It's only in the West where we separate the mind from the body, and it's like we're looking as though we're a machine. We're not a machine. We're not a machine. We are amazing, and like I said, our body is incredible. Like, we're talking here now. I've just had a sandwich. So now my stomach is digesting my food. All this is going, my breathing, my kidneys are, everything's going on within ourselves that we just take for granted every single day. So like you cut yourself and your wound will heal. And so I know it's very easy when people are sick and in that state. And I've been sick. We've all been sick. And sometimes we feel let down with our body. But actually, our body contains all that healing wisdom. We've just got to tap into it. And look what's happening in medicine now. Medicine's going much more individualistic. This whole thing with stem cells, this whole thing with all that rejuvenation that goes on. It's all within us. It's all within us. But I think we should listen to the ancients when they've been doing this for thousands upon thousands of years. That knowledge of the mind, body, spirit of each individual.
I agree. I mean, honestly, we could end right there if we wanted to. What else is there to say? Because, I just think that's so powerful, and people forget the power that they have within themselves, within their
Yes.
body, within their mind, within their emotions. And having these conversations can trigger that empowered nature in people.
Absolutely.
And seeking out other ways of healing, other
Yes.
ways of approaching these physical ailments is huge in helping people take more autonomy in their own health story. And so for someone who's listening who is, has been struggling with, we'll say, lupus or MS or one of those big name diseases. I mean, I have lupus myself.
Yep.
They're on multiple medications, but they're interested in venturing into the homeopathic world. Where do we start?
Yes. Well, the first thing to start is to realize there is other things out there, and there's an old expression: if you want to escape from a prison, realize you're in prison in the first place, and then find somebody who's escaped themselves. So I really believe, especially in chronic conditions, you do need a practitioner. And if we talk about homeopathy, you need to get a homeopathic practitioner. And I'd always say, find somebody word of mouth. That's always the best way. Somebody who's recommended, because it's like everything, isn't it? Getting a plumber, getting a builder, whatever. It's always better to go word of mouth. Somebody who's got that experience, because you need somebody to walk alongside you. Like with my clients, I'm walking alongside them, and it's just having that perspective. You need sometimes people to help you with your perspective of how you're seeing things. And because sometimes, like I said, symptoms can return, old symptoms can come back. Now in homeopathy, that's a good sign, as I just explained. Especially, here's an example. So somebody, somebody has, let's say, migraines, for example. They've had migraines for 5-6 years. You take the case, you take all the symptoms of the migraine, what makes it better, what makes it worse. Often with migraines, it can be hormonal, it can be digestive, that can be the cause of it. And then again, you take the case. I've never been well since taking the contraceptive pill. It started when I started taking the contraceptive pill. Now, in homeopathy, that's a direct cause. So we would give you a remedy like sepia, which is a good remedy for hormonal imbalance, especially from hormonal drugs. So we would give you that remedy. And then they would come back and say, "How are you?" "Yeah, I'm fine, but my headaches are so much better. But I've been really upset and emotional a lot." "Oh, that's interesting. What have you been emotional about?" "This relationship I had, blah, blah." And then you look on the timeline, it's the relationship they had when they were on the contraceptive pill. And what happened about that? "Oh, I found out he had an affair with my best friend. I've never got over it." and they're talking to you and they're sobbing. So I don't know why I'm crying. I haven't thought about this in 5-6 years. Da 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 da. So this is what you see. So these old symptoms return. It can be physical symptoms. It can be emotional symptoms. So you give them a remedy then for ailments from suppressed grief. They've kept this grief in for so long. So you give them a remedy for that. And then, this is what you tend to see. People just moving along this timeline. As you're removing a layer, because remember, the body keeps the score. Great book. I'd highly recommend everybody buy that book. Your body keeps the score. It's this like trapped things in our body that needs to be released. Now, I'm not saying everything that's ever happened to you is there, but if it hasn't been dealt with and been suppressed, then I can guarantee it is probably still there in some level. So this is why I'm saying each time you remove these layers, more vitality comes back into the body. It's like more vitality comes back. But back to your original question, what do you do? You've got to get yourself a good practitioner. Somebody that can walk alongside you, that can, like I said, have that perspective. Who can say, yeah, this is a good sign. This is why this is a good sign. And just explain to you that in order to get back to that place of health and vitality, you need to go on a journey, and it is a journey on health and well-being. Just as you go on one journey, that way, into illness, then there's a journey that I'm coming back, an unwinding process.
Really quick, Holly B here. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast to ask you for a quick favor. Can you take just a moment to like and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are listening in on? It makes a world of a difference. And the reach of this podcast, it takes like literally under 10 seconds. So go do that right now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now back to the episode. So, are there resources online? Like, does your school have a practitioner list?
Yeah. We actually run our school, the Center for Homeopathic Education, CHE. We have students all over the world. We have a lot of students in the US. Basically, we have what we call low-cost clinics. I founded CHE 28 years ago here in London, and so we've been training homeopaths for that length of time as practitioners with a very academic and clinical, rigorous courses. So obviously, we can highly recommend our practitioners, but also we have a teaching clinic, a low-cost teaching clinic for people that can't afford homeopathy, and they pay a nominal fee, and they get seen by one of our trainees, but fully supervised with one of our clinicians. So that if you just go to our website, chehomeopathy.com, I can send you, I don't know whether you got it, you can put it in the show notes. It's a very active, we have 8 clinics a month. We do it all online. We do it all on Zoom. So it's a really great way of people to access homeopathy, especially with chronic disease, particularly. But the other thing, as I say, is just start off yourself. Just start investigating it. Obviously, I'm going to recommend my book, Homeopathy at Home, which was the plug here for the book, out in January, published by Hay House, Penguin Random House. And the reason I wrote that book was because I wanted, they say charity begins at home. I believe homeopathy begins at home. That's where we've got to take the power back. We've got to, I remember my grandmother, if I was sick, she'd always have something in the kitchen cupboard that she would give me in order to help. Always natural, either be a herb or whatever it was. Not homeopathy. I'm just talking what they call the old wives' remedies, the old grandmother remedies. But what's happened is, Holly, I think that we've given that power away. We've given it away to, I don't want to get too controversial here, but, to some of the pharmaceutical industry.
You can get controversial.
The pharmaceutical industry, unfortunately, a lot of the doctors, there's some great doctors out there, and I'm not doctor bashing at all, but often that is the arms of the pharmaceutical industry. And as we know, the pharmaceutical industry is not in the wellness business, it's in the sickness business. And as long as you're aware of that, and I think most people are, then you've got to find ways to get your body, to look after your own family's health. So I would always say start with like a simple book, Homeopathy at Home, which explains how to use homeopathy for coughs, colds. Just start off with things like that. Start off with bumps and bruises, very easy to treat. Or you go to the gym and work out and you feel sore, the remedies you can take. So in that book, the A to Z, it covers everything from anxiety, acute anxiety, all the way to warts and toothache and all different things you find at home. So I'd say start with that and see, like I said, see it in action. The proof is in the pudding. And then, that will then take you on a journey. When I first heard about homeopathy, I was 20 years of age. I wasn't interested in I didn't know what homeopathy was. Give you the short version. I was in a rock and roll band. I was going to be a rock star, and somebody invited me to this open day, which I didn't want to go to. And when I was listening to the person speak, who'd been a practitioner for 40 years, I remember just going really still inside. And I'd never experienced this stillness as I experienced that day as he was talking. And he was talking about his cases, he was talking about homeopathic remedies. And a part of me just knew what he was saying was the truth. And I remember thinking to myself, if this is true, how come the whole world doesn't know about it? And then my second thought was, I'm going to make sure the whole world does know about it. And that's been my journey for the past 34 years, because people need to know the amazing, totally, even to this day, still, I'm in love with it because I see what it can do. But all it's doing is allowing your body to heal itself, And I think more people need to know that. Families, everybody needs to know that they've got a choice. And I think we're living in very interesting times. Since COVID, since the pandemic, it's awoken a lot of people up to realize that they have to take charge of their own health and well-being. We've got to do that. We cannot be reliant on external businesses and organizations to do it for us.
We didn't even talk about COVID. Were your clinics busy at that time? Were you having
Extremely
success?
busy. Extremely busy. And we just deal with it like we deal with anything. Again, as I said, we look at the characteristic symptoms. Not everybody who had COVID had the same remedy. There's different remedies like bromine or phosphorus or arsenic, all these different homeopathic according to their characteristic symptoms. But the homeopathic pharmacies here in London, there was queues all the way down the street to get the remedies, people queuing up. In fact, Helios Pharmacy had to shut their website down for a week. They could not deal with the amount of orders, asking for remedies. So we treat long COVID. What's long COVID? It's just post-viral fatigue in its severe form, which homeopaths we've been doing this for hundreds of years, dealing with things like that. So there's been nothing new there. But I think what happened, it really woke people up. I don't know what it was like in the US, but in the UK, remember that first year, there was nothing. There was no vaccine. There was nothing. We were just told to stay at home, wear a mask, all the stuff everybody was told. And that shocked a lot of people to the core because they thought that if they ever got sick, that medicine or it would come to their rescue, and it didn't. And that really, I think it put the whole thing about death and about health really to the forefront of people's minds. And which I think, has been a blessing because people now have to become self-empowered. And to everybody listening, you have to become self-empowered on the healthcare. You really do. And again, I'm not anti-medicine, so if you need to, then you use it. But I would say we've got to also work on our health and well-being anyway, making sure that, we do everything we can in order to enhance our health and well-being so we don't get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely mirror everything you just said. We have to be the leader in our health experience. We can't put it on anybody else.
No.
At the end of the day, it's all on us. So are we being proactive? What are we ignoring? What are we putting to the side? What symptoms are too inconvenient? Well, those symptoms will keep coming up and keep coming up. And if you don't listen to them, they're going to get bigger and they're going to get bigger. And eventually something's going to happen. So I do. And I think that that's honestly how a lot of us end up with autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
it's been a process. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a process to get there and it's a process to unravel it. I mean, going to herb school, we were taught that for every year you've had a symptom, it takes a month to get to regulate it, right? So if you've been sick for 15 years, you're not going to get well in a month.
No, exactly that. That's exactly what I say to my clients. For every year you've had it, it takes a month to clear. And guess what? That is true. It is so true. So you're right. So if somebody comes in with an eczema or with all an autoimmune disease and they've had it for, say, 5 years, this is not going to be over in a month. This could be a good, 5 months, 6 months of slowly getting back to a state of health and well-being. And you should be able to feel that, you should be able to feel that health and well-being. This is why I always say to clients is, when I first start treating them, what's your energy like out of 10? They may say, oh, it's like 3 out of 10, and then people come back and think, how are you? Oh, I don't think I'm any better. What's your energy like out of 10? Oh, it's only about a 5. Oh, last month he said it was a 3. Oh, really? Because we forget as we start to get better, we often forget how we were. And that's why you need a practitioner. You need a practitioner that's walking by your side that can show you, oh, look, you're oh, yeah, I went for a run. Yes. Oh, really? When was the last time you did that? Oh, yeah, I suppose I haven't done that for, all these little things. But these are signs of vitality coming back. The way that you wake up in the morning is a great sign of vitality. Most people wake up and they feel groggy. They can't wake up without an alarm. They feel nauseous. You have to have 3 cups of coffee before they can even talk to anybody. But then you look at a 5-year-old jumping out of bed. I remember when I was a kid, I was 5 or I was 6. It was the summer holidays. Jump out of bed. What's the day going to bring? Get on my bike. I was on my bike, maybe go for lunch, for a sandwich, go back outside. I didn't wake up the next morning and go, oh, no, I think, my back's stiff, or I think I'll give it a miss today. No, I did the same thing again. Why? Because I had vitality. But we've still got that vitality. It's only a Western perspective that as we get older, that our vitality goes down. I'm 54 and I feel better than I did when I was 34. Why? Because I put the work into it every day, consistently put the work in of these little things that we do in order to be healthy. So we've all got to do that, I feel, in order to maximize that innate health. That is our birthright.
Lastly, for fun, any favorite remedies?
We haven't been too serious, have we? I'm sorry, Holly, for being too serious.
Oh, no, I love the seriousness, but I'm super curious what your favorite remedies are.
Well, it's a really good question. I have to say, probably my favorite remedy is always going to be arnica, because arnica, everybody listen, you should have that in your handbag, have it in the car. It should be everywhere. Why? Because it's a universal trauma remedy. I've seen it work. I mean, my son and kids take it, if they're playing soccer or whatever, it's in the bag, they know what to take. But it's just such a brilliant remedy for trauma. And I've seen it with people who have had serious injuries, like from 10 years previously, never been well since. You give them arnica in a high potency, and it can deal with issues even from 10 years previously. So it's the universal remedy. It grows down the side of mountains. It's called Arnica montana. And what's great about it, if you fall over it, the remedy's there. It's there to help you. So I have to say arnica, because it helped me. I fractured my skull about 15 years ago, actually, just after my son was born. And my wife is a homeopath, but also she used to be a nurse. Basically, I think it saved my life, her giving me arnica before the ambulance came. And so, I've got arnica's got a big thing in my heart, because the doctors couldn't believe how my head injury was healing after taking arnica. They were really quite shocked, because that's what it does. It's the key in the lock, remember? Key in the lock. And I remember actually taking the arnica, and I could feel, I'm in A&E, or what you call ER in the States, lying on a trolley, and she was putting the arnica in my mouth every 15 minutes. And as soon as she should give me a dose, I could feel my body just like sucking it up. It was a really strange sensation, but I could feel it. It was like there was something that was having a very powerful effect in my body. And it was incredible. So arnica, it should be in every ER department.
Love it. Yeah, I used to work at an integrative pharmacy. I worked with all the supplements and everything, and arnica was the one natural remedy that people would come in saying that their doctors and their surgeons actually told them to come in and get it to help them heal. So that's the one homeopathic remedy that I know that has actually spanned across lines.
It's incredible. And you're right. And a lot of, I used to work with a dentist in a dentistry in 1995, and we would give them up all his patients arnica before, during, and after. And he would swear that his patients got better quickly. They didn't bleed, as much, because it's about trauma. I also had somebody who was he was a trainer in boxers, young guys who are boxers, and he used to put arnica in the water bottle so they would drink it between rounds, and he swore that he had less injuries and the fighters could go on. Now, I don't know how ethical that is, but it just shows you the power of arnica. It's incredible. And also you can get arnica cream, which you can put if you got, muscle aches, but arnica is universal for gym, injuries to the gym, after surgery, before surgery. Again, can you be using animals? If you damage your plants, for example, say something happens to a plant, you damage it in any way, or something falls and then crushes it. In fact, I did it to this plant here a couple of weeks ago. Just give it some arnica, put some arnica in some water, give it to it, and bang, it looks pretty healthy now. So
I love
yeah,
it. I love it.
it's great.
And so if
Once you get into, I'm going to tell you
everybody-
now, once you get into homeopathy, people become obsessed by it. They become obsessed.
Awesome. So everybody should get your book because that's going to walk
Yes.
them through all the basics and all the good,
Yep.
remedies to have at home for all the day-to-day stuff that comes up, right?
Absolutely. You can buy it on Amazon. It's the #1 bestseller now on Amazon. Yeah, just I'll give it to you to put in the show notes, but it's Homeopathy at Home. Everyday treatments for common complaints. So I'll give the top 5 remedies for each condition, which I've seen in clinical practice. So the top 5 remedies for coughs, top 5 remedies for hay fever. I mean, everything you can think of is in there. But also I've put in some things you can get in the kitchen cupboard. This is my thing back to my grandmother. So things like, bicarbonate soda or thyme herb or chamomile or all different things that are in there you can get in the kitchen cupboard as well, which will help.
I love it. And then on your website for the school, I noticed
Yes.
there's also a free course.
That's right. Yes. The free course is our home prescriber course. Now, we gave that away for free during lockdown. We used to sell that course. But because people were so disempowered around their health and well-being, I said to my team, let's just give it away. People need to know they've got a choice. And it's a five-hour video course. It's free. You can go into the website. It's for free. Because again, I just want people to know what homeopathy can do. It gives you a great introduction to the philosophy and the history, but also top remedies you can use in everyday life. And just go and check it out because we've had over 50,000 people around the world do that course now. It's incredible.
Awesome. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you got to do it, Holly. Have you done it yet?
I have not done it yet, but I will now because that's one
Yeah, you gotta
modality
do
I
it.
haven't been. Yeah, I haven't been trained in it yet.
Yeah, you'll learn so much from it. And actually, many of your students, people watch that, have gone on to train as a practitioner. But it's one of our great lecturers, Hilary Dorian, who's 40 years of experience of homeopathy, incredible clinician, and she teaches so well. People love a Scottish accent. She's Scottish, so people love a Scottish accent.
Even better. I love it.
Even better.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation, and I can't wait to see everything that your school does, all the practitioners it turns out, and how much it's going to really keep continuing to change the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Holly. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much to Marcus Fernandez for sharing his expertise and passion for homeopathy today. I hope you're leaving this episode with a renewed sense of possibility, that your body holds wisdom and there are gentle, holistic ways to support your healing. If this conversation resonated with you, remember, you don't have to walk this path alone. You'll see resources for Marcus's book, for his free class, and you can also find my free daily lupus guide and symptom tracker as well. And reach out and apply for a free health strategy call if you are ready for more personalized support. Until next time, please be kind to yourself, trust your journey, and keep building your bridge back to health. We'll see you again soon on the next episode of the Health Bridge podcast.